I have read a book that I can nearly unequivocally recommend to anyone. Finally, one that's really good. Nearly unequivocally because it is about detectives who are um, searching for a murderer. So that's not everyone's taste. But if you want to read a just an extremely well written book, this is one. It's the new one by Michael Connelly. It's called Desert Star. And again, okay, so it is a book in a series with a couple of characters who have, he's written about before. However, for the writing, um, there's a couple of things that he does in this book that are just so good. And it might seem like it's, well, he's writing about characters he knows and places he knows and etc. Um, except it's more than that because, okay, so I started reading his books. This is definitely one of many I've read by him because I was attempting to write a thriller, and which is not what it turned out to be. Because usually you start writing a book and it usually ends up being about something totally different than what you thought it was going to be. Um, but I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. And so to do anything like that, you basically have to do research by reading other examples of the genre that you're trying to write. So there's a tip if you want to be a writer. Um, so it's basically him and Harlan Coben, who I'm like, very eh. I mean, I can see why people think it's popular, but not great. Um, not good yarns. This guy, Michael Connelly, oh my lord. Um, he started, I believe, as a reporter for the crime unit in Los Angeles, something like that. And you can tell. You can really tell. First of all, he knows his stuff inside and out. He doesn't make up fluff things just like, oh, for the convenience of the plot, I'm going to add this in. But as far as just sharp, precise writing, phenomenal. I mean, it's clear that the guy had, copy limits and learned how to write extremely precisely and concisely and with exactly the again, this is the difference between him and Coben is the amount of fluff. There isn't any. It's perfect. Okay, well, it's maybe not perfect, but it's pretty close. Um, the first tenet, well, okay, there's multiple tenets. First one is write what you know. Well, this guy, he used to be a reporter. He's writing what he knows. Second is something called in medias res, which means basically in the middle of things that you don't, I mean, it's just like anybody else. Even if, you wake up and you turn off your alarm, you already know what you're doing during the day. There's almost nobody that doesn't know what they're doing during the day. Everybody's life is that. And nobody pays attention to the wake up, turn off the alarm crap. So he starts that book with a bang. He starts it right in the middle of everything. Stuff's happened. He refers back to it, and he assumes that the characters know about it and don't need to have it explained. There's now I can't even think of anyway, there's a specific type of exposition that's found in novels, and you usually get characters, like a specific character who just gives out all the information that you need to know. I mean, the one that's popping in my head is Hermione Granger, the know-it-all in Harry Potter, who would, anytime something would come up, oh, well, let me tell you everything I know about this, boom, done. There's none of that in this book. These characters know what they're talking about. If there is some little bit of lingo that's not like, I mean, because a lot of it is obvious. It's either it's written right into the text in order. It's very easy to sort out what they mean. Um, or it's obvious from context of what they're talking about. I counted a couple of points where it's literally like a one sentence separate chapter, you know, this particular thing means this. Just to make it absolutely clear that if there is some sort of, lingo, that it is defined, if it's not something that can be put into the story, it's in there. I mean, he's on it. He makes sure that people know what he's doing, but he doesn't overdo that at all. The other thing, I mean, he's so good at trusting the audience is another thing that you have to do as a writer. That I mean, if you're doing something like Harry Potter, where it's completely different world and totally different language and completely different circumstance, okay, yeah, you got to explain a lot. But I mean, if you're talking about like this is life in LA, that most of the things you can figure it out. I mean, if you're going to read this book and you want to see how to do that extremely well, where it's not like, I'm going to tell you what's going on. Here's all the pertinent details. I mean, again, it helps. He's writing a thriller. He doesn't want you to know all the pertinent details. There is a dog in this book. See how it is introduced. Pay attention to what's not said because it's excellent. That he goes out of his way to not basically overstate anything. It's great. It's really great. And the entire book is like that. It's really, really great. There's, like, in my opinion, a fairly clunky red herring, which I should have known. I should have known that's what it was, and it was on purpose, and it was like, in other lesser books, they would have come right out and said, hey, there's this going on. This book didn't do it. It led you to it. It leads you to coming up with, I mean, it's clear in the process of reading it, you will know this guy had X, Y, and Z, and he wanted his readers to be thinking this and this and this. And there are a couple of big surprises in this book. Like, oh my God, no. Definite cliffhangers. You just don't see it coming. And I mean, yet that again is technique, because what he's done is made things like so blatant and obvious so that you're not looking for the things that are actually going to be shocking, and suddenly they're there and it's like, oh my God, no. That sort of thing definitely happens in this book. It's really, really good. It's a great read. You don't need to start with, like, read the entire series of everything. They're great. Read them all. And it's really interesting to see. He did become a better writer over the years. This one it's great. Other ones are a little bit more clunky. It's really interesting to see his evolution as a writer. But I was just looking for an example, so I just grabbed one. So I grabbed one in the middle of the series, and it didn't matter. I mean, the first book, if I do recall, because it's been a while, where this character was introduced, really did have this introductory crap that you sort of have to have. But then when he did it the one time, he did not repeat it, and yet you don't need it. This book could be a standalone book. There are references to other things that have happened in previous books, but not like to the extreme. It's not like I'm going to, give a step-by-step rundown of this other case that I did. It's not like that. I mean, there are references to a history. Everybody has a history. It's great. You can read it as a standalone, and as a book in a series. I think that is just a phenomenal success as a writer. So, again, there are murder things in it. Actually, that was my prompt. My prompt for this book was something about a murder, or pertaining to a murder, or something like that. Yep, got that one checked off. Yeah, my list is a little negative. There's some, War, Inheritance, this one, Murder. The people who came up with this list, maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe these are very common themes and topics of books. But anyway, again, Desert Star, really good. I kept finding myself purposefully slowing down reading and purposefully pausing and finding something else, not because I was too caught up in the book, but because I wanted to draw it out and have the experience continue reading the book, make it longer. I mean, it was really good. And I'm glad it was really good. I had high hopes. It exceeded my expectations. A really good book. And again, a good book if you want to dissect it to see how exactly to do some of these things that, if you want to be a writer, that you are required to do. Anyway, thank you very much.